Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. My request is about a paper I'm trying to do to try to find out what thought leaders in our industry are thinking about the growing trend of people thinking about agile as a methodology. And I will build here on what Dave Thomas said in 2014 about agile is dead, long live agility. I agree with him completely that people keep talking about agile manifesto, and I do it also myself with clients and companies I work. I usually refer as a shortcut to the agile manifesto, but it really seems that it led people think as agile as a methodology.
Yeah.
And this thinking, I think you will agree with me, is wrong, because people think about agile as a target operating model, as a destination, and they try to reach this destination through the old ways of managers deciding how people are going to work in the future. And what do you think about it?
Well, first of all, for me, when people say, well, okay, let me rephrase. When managers say, we use the agile methodology, I always think, oh, fuck, another one who doesn't understand what we talk about, right?
Yeah.
Agile is not a methodology. I'm making a drawing for you that I want to show to you. I have a beautiful slide from it that you can get later on if you like. But when we wrote the manifesto in 2001, there was a group of people, 17 men, and every one of them had his own reason to work in a different way, different from the traditional way. And the traditional way was and still is very waterfall oriented, right? And you can look at it like this. I have this one here. I just made for you a little drawing. And you can see that some of us were focusing on large groups, like me. Some of us on what we call the agile team, 9 people or less. And some of us on individual and pairs. And also the reason to work in a different way, what you want to achieve, varied from quality to efficiency and the value being delivered. And from there on, you can see that agile is on top of this. So this is a group of 17 people. And what we did there, we presented to each other how we work. And we were working in a different way. So we all had our own ways of thinking and doing. But I'm going to write in here some things, in my opinion, really true. You can plot on this, I call it the agile umbrella. You can plot on this the agile methodologies from 2001 when we wrote the manifesto, but also later on what has been developed. I mean, things like for example, less was developed after the writing the manifesto, but Lean and Kanban already existed before, and that for me is also part of the Agile Manifesto, and the Agile domain, I should say. And then you get something like this, and then you can see that Agile is the concept because they share things, right? And then you have below the concepts, you have the methods, and every method has a number of practices. And one of the practices that most methods share is the daily. The daily is a practice, right? And I think, right. So this is the way it works, in my opinion. When you are an agile practitioner, when you go into an agile transformation, and you want to make sure that you, in this agile way of working, you can tackle the problems that you have in team, any kind of problem, any kind of team, regarding the delivery, then you need to apply practices from all those methods. With one method, you don't get there. And this is why you see a lot of people in what they think is agile, an agile organization struggling, for example, with quality, or struggling with the delivery of value. Very unhappy product owners, a lot of bugs and incidents, those kind of things. So you need to be able to do this. So for me, agile is not a method. Agile is not even a methodology. There's always debate about what the word methodology means. in the Netherlands, in the Dutch language, methodology means science of methods, right? So we have this debate. So I use the word method. So we have the concept, we have the methods and the practices. And the moment that you are in an agile organization, in an agile team, the practices is what you do. It's a practice. It's called a practice for a reason. When you are, for example, an agile coach, those methods, let me say, this umbrella is your body of knowledge, right? That's what you need to know. But to be able to help your team, when a problem pops up, you need to know, the whole domain. That's my point. So I agree with you. It's not a method, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people also don't want to hear. And I think one of the most important characteristics of an agilist is that you are always open to learn. You know those people that learn to tell other people that they are wrong? I think to listen to tell other people are wrong. I think you should always listen to understand, right? And ask questions for clarification. And if it's a best practice of someone else that you didn't use, start using it and try if it helps you too, right? And that's what you miss very often.
Yeah, I tend to see some so-called enterprise level coach who say, I don't work with a team, I work only with manager. And I'm thinking, well, if you're here for 3 weeks, yes, okay. If you're here for 6 months and you don't go to the team, there's something do you think it's possible to be a good agile coach just talking to managers? My understanding.
Of course not. No. It's like, let me give you a metaphor. If you want to lose weight and you only stop eating potatoes, that doesn't help you. You need to look at the whole thing, and you need to say, okay, where are the problems of gaining weight? And that will be in the management layer for sure, because the management layer is a success. It's a make or break factor, right? But in the teams is where you create the benefits of working agile. So as a coach, you need to be able to move around, to understand, because what goes wrong in the teams should be facilitated by the management layers. At one moment in time, because the word agile coach is such an abused word, right?
Yeah, everything and nothing.
It's like consultant. It's like, what the hell is this? And what, especially with the question that you ask, to give you an answer, I perceive that we have, you can have a debate forever about it, but I think we have like 4 different coaches. How do I do this?
I read on Women-E2 website your approach is a different kind of.
Yeah, so you have a management coach, and a management coach is able to work and think on the management level, understands management work, understand corporate responsibilities and how to handle them. Now, if a team, because you have also the team coach, right? If a team is struggling, because in a transformation, very often you have teams in a non-agile environment or in a not so agile yet environment, then you get the organizational coach. And the organizational coach is able to work on the area around the team, because the team wants to work agile, the rest of the organization is not yet, that need to happen. And we have the technical coach, the development coach, as I call it. And in my opinion, the management coach is, because he understands all those management paradoxes where you get in during a transformation, is also someone who could easily be that organization coach, and just running around at the top of an organization, not knowing what happens on the floor. That's for me bullshit bingo. Yeah.
Definitely. So we hear people talking or writing about full agile, pure agile, and I'm thinking they don't know what they're talking about. So the first thing I do usually in trainings is asking people at the very beginning, what for you does it mean agile? And I get a lot of different answers, but always when someone say, oh, here we can't be full agile, I'm thinking which part of the manifesto can't be thought about what you're doing. What is your take on this use of the word agile when you hear someone saying pure or full agile, or agile doesn't work for us?
Yeah, agile doesn't work for us is most often said by people who never tried it. I want to give you a phrase. some say it's a quote from Winston Churchill. Others say it's a quote from Cardinal Newman from the UK. Both guys from the past, but I like the quote. And the quote says, "Perfection is not a state. Perfection is an ambition." So to reach perfection, you need to change a lot. So perfect people change a lot. Now, if you take out the word perfect and you replace it by agile, it says agile is not a state. Agile is an ambition. And to become agile, you need to change a lot. So agile people change a lot. Now, the point is people don't like change. And from the past, we are used to having a very prescriptive way of working. We had the QA manuals that tell you exactly how to work day by day, as if you are an idiot, right? The big change in an agile transformation is you move from a very prescripted way of working to a more liquid way of working, because you're getting into agile and making your organization agile is such a different thing. You go there over time. So you begin with agile maybe in the little teams, and you start doing dailies and retros and heartbeats, and you do poker estimation, and you do test-driven development, and then at one moment in time you start connecting the teams, and then later on you think, okay, my people are moving from a silo profile to a T-shaped profile. I need to bring HR in, so HR comes in, so you're going to the HR level, and you're going to corporate agile delivery. Agile working is moving from a prescripted way of working to a way of continuous learning and continuous improvement. So if people say we are full agile, please give them my name and number and let them call me, because I'm very curious about what that means. And there are organizations known around the globe where people say, oh, the full organization is agile, and they're even well known. And I meet sometimes people from the partners in that organization. Those organizations are, and I travel, from China to Argentina and back, right? And some people never heard about agile, and they work in extremely traditional siloed organizations. So I think, on one hand, having that corporate capability to respond to change in a fast and high quality way is very important. I think COVID-19 has proven more than ever, as an organization, you need to be able to respond very fast. But first of all, you don't get there that easy. And second, it's an ongoing process. And it's a combination of mindset, ways of working, changing habits, changing paradigms, changing architecture, bringing in technology to facilitate the agile delivery. There's so much to do. If these days someone says we are fully agile, I was talking not so long ago, let me put it like this, to a bank somewhere in Europe, somewhere in the middle of Europe. And I was supposed to do a session there in the bank, in the organization. And I had an interview like this, to get it started. And we have this talk, and we are a young organization, and we are very agile. Okay. I mean, I love that, when they say that to me, you're very agile. So at one moment in time, I asked, okay, what is your delivery cycle? And the shocking answer was once a year. And then you think, and this is, I think, the problem with it's a very young professional domain. So we have, in the Netherlands, we have an expression that said, in the land of the blind, one eye is king, right? And people just read half a book, especially people who are a little bit older, people above 35, 40, they think they know everything. They read half a book, go to one conference, and they think they know everything, and they start doing things, and then they mess up, and then they will say, see, agile doesn't work for us, right? That's where you go.
As Dave Thomas said it in his speech, I mean, now you get people getting certified Scrum Master in 1 day or 2 days, and the things they know, because we tell them they know, they're certified. So I think it's linked to that. So that's also why I'm looking at clarifying and decreasing the confusion. It also includes dictionaries. I look at the definition of Scrum and Agile in dictionaries, and some of them are quite surprising. So in the Oxford Dictionary, the definition of Agile, in the meaning we give it here, relating to or denoting a method of project management used specially for software development that is characterized by the division of tasks into short phases of work and frequent reassessment and adaptation to plan. So it's, I mean, the beginning saying it's a method for project management already is not very correct by the definition of the word method.
It's correct, yeah.
And it's quite partial. In the Cambridge Dictionary, it said used for describing ways of planning and doing work in which it is understood that making change as they are needed is important part of the job. So they're very partial and quite incomplete. And
I agree, they're incomplete, and the first one has a lot of wrong things in there.
Yeah. So what would be your definition of the word agile if we had to put it in a dictionary? I asked a question to Jeff Sutherland, and Sutherland said, well, just put the 4 values. But I still think given the 4 values, the dictionary will not accept that. And my aim is to contact them at some point to say, look, I asked many people who are thought leader and they kind of agree. I mean, I would like to reach a consensus about the wording. James Coplian from the Scrum Plop community told me, look, Arno, you can't define agile or even Scrum in few words because the words are too narrow to define those complex. But what I would like to achieve is trying to get a correct window, like a set of words that is an invitation, a correct invitation to discover the full concept.
I think the difficulty is I was once talking to Alistair Coburn, is also one of the authors of the manifesto. And he said, Arie, for me, Agile is like an old European city with all those different markets. You have a fish market, you have a vegetable market, a meat market. He said, it's not one thing. But I remember when we wrote the manifesto, we were all very clear that we changed the way we work for a very good reason. If I look back to myself, and then I get to the definition. I was doing in 1994, I was doing a project. I started in November 1993. It stopped in 1994. A project with the Dutch IRS, and it was stopped after 7 months, 30 people full-time working. And I was extremely upset, and I thought, how in the world is it possible that we spent so much money and it's just turned into waste? Project stopped, never started again. And that was my motivation to change. And I say, my definition of what Agile is, not how you work, right? But what Agile is, it's a corporate capability to respond to change. That's what it is. And you work in such a way that you deliver better business value, so the right stuff, earlier to the market, faster, and with a better internal quality. And the reason I have this is because if you deliver the wrong things, and a lot of projects deliver the wrong things, you need to do rework. And rework takes time, and we don't have this time anymore. Faster means that you focus on the efficiency, so you take out all the remote or intercommunication. And the better internal quality is, in these days, you cannot allow yourself to have a lot of bugs, because if your solution is not working properly, people swipe left and they go to the competition, right? So Agile is a corporate capability to respond to change. And you do this by working in such a way that you bring better business value earlier to the market with a better internal quality. And that's as much as I say now, it's also, very abstract, because it doesn't tell you how you work. But then you go to, when we wrote the manifesto, we had 13 different methods presented in the room. I don't know if you have this book, I'll show you. Jim Highsmith, one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto, he wrote this book within a couple of months after publishing the manifesto. We wrote this book, and the methods represented in Snowbird when we wrote the manifesto are all here described by him. And I am, from that perspective, I'm very happy with this, because it also makes clear that, because so many people claim things about the manifesto and claim about Agile and claim about their role and that kind of thing. And this makes very clear who were there and which methods, sorry, I make the mistakes even myself, and which methods were presented. Now, I think quite a few methods in that book used a lot from Lean and Kanban. And I cannot imagine myself doing an organization or even working Agile myself without some of the practices from Lean and Kanban. So Lean and Kanban are for me part of this way of working. They are part of the Agile family. And then later on, new methods were introduced to the market. And they claim to be Agile as well. And whether they are adopted or not, I don't care. But in that book, there is everything that you need to be Agile as an organization. Yeah. We didn't think about operating models, Arno, don't get me wrong. We didn't think about that. So if you can have support, okay, what kind of operating model can you transform to? That's great, right? And we now as grows the Agile, so the progress of Agile working, the demand for Agile for operating models in an Agile organization is growing, and everybody wants their own, specific tailor-made operating model, which is again not so Agile. I think learn from the good ones and improve further from there on. But for working Agile, everything is in there.
That's a good reference. Thank you for that. So would you say, some people say Agile is now an umbrella. It's an umbrella for the set of values, based on the set of values and principles written in the manifesto. But it came to encompass, now when people talk about Agile, it means the framework, the methods, the patterns, the techniques, the tools that have been created and maintained, evolved through the community. What do you think? What's your take on it? Do you think Agile should be referring to this umbrella of things, meaning it's a bit of everything links to what we're doing and how we're doing, or should we be more strict and say, well, it's just the manifesto?
No, it's I think if you look at the manifesto, that for us is, again, right, we presented those 13 methods and we looked for what we share. And what we shared at that moment in time, that's the 4 values and the 12 principles. That's what we share. So for me, very often people ask me, when are you going to change it? When are you going to update it? I think there are at least 15 other manifestos. We have the test manifesto and the analyst manifesto. Oh man, and I think the way I see the manifesto itself is a declaration of independence. That thing does the job, right? You don't have to change it. The manifesto, I think no organization lives up to the manifesto yet. So let's focus on that one first as a dot on the horizon to go to. And then in that journey to get there, if I always say when I talk on stage somewhere or with a smaller group, I said, for me, Agile, like I just told you, right? Concept, methods, practices. The practices is what you do. And if you, organization, in your team, if you identify a new practice within the 4 values and the 12 principles, please write it down, publish it, go on stage, talk about it, and share it. That's how we made the Agile Manifesto as well, by sharing. And what I see is a lot of people publishing something and then asking a lot of money for it. And for me, that's not what it's all about.
Okay, so you're kind of more on in the side of people who say Agile is a manifesto, more than everything else altogether.
I say Agile is an interaction concept. And why do we say it? Because if you look on the quality and the efficiency and the value, if you go back from the right, we deliver very often not the right requirements, so not bringing the value, because we don't talk to the real business. So people who don't do the real business, they define functionality for people without real communication. It's not working. So you have a lot of rework there. So what you do is you put the people at the table together, right? So that's number one. This is why we have all those sessions. The efficiency part, if you have people at the table all together instead of in a sequence, because the traditional process is a sequential process, right? Instead of in a sequence, you cut out all the remote and written communication and the toll gates and the time slots of waiting in there. So you get to the efficiency. And also if you do things like pair programming and refactoring and test-driven development, which is very much based on how you communicate in your development team, you gain a lot of quality by sharing the knowledge and by having 2 pair of eyes looking at the code, creating better code. And this is what I think it is. Agile is about avoiding delay, and it's a mindset. But first of all, to get it going, it's an interaction concept. The success in Agile comes with the quality and the discipline that you apply using the Agile rituals. You know, like the dailies and the heartbeats and the retros,
Okay.
etc.
That's an interesting point. What's your view on in part of history, and which came first and which influenced which? Where do you see Scrum in relation to Lean and Agile?
I'm not one of the authors of Scrum, so maybe you could ask them that question better than you ask me. But I read articles that people claim that the first pieces of Lean and Kanban date from 100 years ago, from in the 20s. There are people claiming that the first publications leading to Scrum, based on a lot of Lean stuff, are from the 80s in Korea. And I don't even know when the first publication of Scrum, the Scrum Guide was, but I think it was 89 or something. The first I represented DSDM, their first publication was, I think, in February 1995, if I say correctly. I think Test-Driven Development was published in 1998, if I'm correct. So we all had different moments in time. And I think those were depending on your own personal situation. When did you feel a need to change? And my need was in 1994. And the other ones maybe earlier or later. I remember that James Grenning said to, I think it was James who said to me, one of the authors of the manifesto, he said that he got in contact with the work of Ward Cunningham and Ken Beck in Extreme Programming. And from there on, he became the specialist in test-driven development. And I think he said to me 1998, if I'm correct, because we talked recently in June this year, and last year we worked together as well. So you can see everybody had his own moment, but the driver was, okay, the old waterfall traditional way doesn't work for me, and I have a couple of improvements.
Do you think Agile is an evolution of Lean, or do you think they're different concepts? Because when I discussed with James Copley, and if I understood him well, he said, well, he sees Scrum are in between Agile and Lean, meaning he doesn't see Agile and the principle and values as an evolution or based on Lean. But when I look at the principle, the first principle is satisfy the customer, so about customer value, and the last one is about continuous adaptation, continuous improvement, which is, so I see a lot of Lean here. So,
of course, you should ask Jeff Sutherland himself, but as far as I know, he was the one who said, you know, Lean is about working efficient in a car manufacturing environment, and Scrum is about being efficient in a software manufacturing environment. I think it was Jeff Sutherland who said this.
Okay.
Yeah. And is Scrum in between Agile and Lean? In between is a word I would never use, but I think that a lot of methods of working, whatever method of working, is always based on the best practice of someone who writes it. But that person has been working, so the best practices are coming from somewhere, and nobody invents everything himself. So everybody is looking, learning, opening, trying, and there is a publication about, and I think it's also from Jeff Sutherland, the difference between Agile and Scrum, and I think that's worthwhile reading, right? For me, Agile is connected. It's an interaction concept that you bring alive with the 4 values and the 12 principles.
About the definition of Agile again, in the last book of Dara Rigby, Doing Agile Right, and I know the phrase is also not of the taste of Dave Thomas, as he made clear in 2015. But anyway, behind this maybe marketing title, in the beginning of the book, on the cover page, it's written, Agile is a method, this method, and then they write, Agile is a philosophy of work. And then they say about how we are going to discuss how to implement Agile right. And I'm getting confused myself, because is it can something be a method and at the same time be a philosophy, and can you implement a philosophy? And I go back to what I say at the beginning. It seems even some of people who have quite open view on the market and we are considered thought leader. I mean, Darrell Rigby has written a lot of papers about agility over the years, and still it seems that it's confusing what they call agile here.
Agile is not a method, period. Agile is written down in a manifesto, and at that moment in time, it already had 13 different methods. Agile is not a method, it's a concept, period. If you say it's a philosophy, I like to say it's a mindset. You cannot implement a mindset. And why do I say it's a mindset? Agile working itself is not difficult. It's focusing on the interaction. And of course, if you do Agile in the software environment, software development environment, you need technology, to do your sprint deliveries and your integration and your test. But it's the interaction. It's the daily, the retro, the heartbeat, those kind of things that you do, right, together. That's simple. You can learn that in a day. But if you want to change an organization to facilitate that kind of working, you need to change silos. You need to change decision-making processes. You need to change job profiles. You need to change, in the software development area, technology. There's so many things that you need to change. And if you change silos and job profiles, career paths, promotion, just simple thing, individual targets in an agile environment don't work. Because Agile is no longer working in a silo. You're no longer a tester or an analyst or whatever. You are a team member, and you go from individual tasks to team delivery. And this is why you are multidisciplined, because if I am an analyst and you're a developer, but I get stuck in something, you can say, okay, Arie, I help you finish it, right? That's the thing of Agile. This is how we keep the team moving.
Okay, so
those things, changing, Arno, those things. So under the way of working, you'll have changes in the organization you need to do to make that possible. And that is changing, that changes based on mindset. The old career paths, the old job profiles, working in silos, those are paradigms. The whole world thinks like this. So an agile transformation, not an implementation, an agile transformation is a paradigm shift, which is approximately the most difficult change you can make. You don't implement agile, bollocks.
Very well, that's very clear. I'm going to contact Darrell Rigby because I think there's a birth defect in this book from the beginning. Then
absolutely, it starts with the wrong phrase. Yeah.
No, I looked at job titles sometime and job offers on the market to try to see how things are going, and I see a lot of job titles where they say Scrum Master / Team Leader, Scrum Master / Team Coordinator, Scrum Master / Project Manager.
Product owner / product manager, blah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and or something like Agile Project Manager. And I think it's fine if they don't refer to Scrum, but most of the time they say you need to be a certified Scrum Master. And I'm like, again, people don't understand. But I think you answered about all of that. You agree there's a lot of confusion.
Yeah, and what you talk about is that what people try to do is they try to plot agile roles on old roles, and this is one of the things. This is a paradigm shift. The roles are new; they're different. So in a transformation, people have to change their professional profile. If you do a proper agile transformation, their professional profile will change. And the good news is that if you do it in the proper way, you can coach them and you can say, okay, how do you, because you don't have to be able to do all the tasks in a team, but let's say half the, if you have 10 different tasks in a team, you need to be able to do at least 5. And then as an individual, okay, how do you want to develop? And you want to say, you can say, okay, I'm a developer, but I like to know more about the testing and the integration. So I like to know about the tools and how to do this. And I'm also a developer. Said, well, I would like to know more about working with a client on defining the stories, etc. So 2 people with the same profile now, but with a different ambition. And agile transformations can help people to transform to a profile within their own ambition, without the obligation having to go through job profiles you don't like at all. And I've been in that situation where I had, you went from from ops to test to and then when you're a developer, then you were a programmer, system analyst, programmer, then you were a system analyst and a technical designer and a functional designer, and then you are an information analyst and a consultant, and you have to go this. And if you said, I don't want to be a functional designer, the simple back from the management was, you have a lack of ambition. No, I want to be a fucking developer. I like that, and I'm going to be a super developer. That's what I want. And that's the kind of thinking that's completely different, and that's what people underestimate in agile working and agile organizations.
Yes, so overall, something has been going wrong in the community, in the world, about the understanding of agile. And again, the number of articles where people talk it's a methodology, or the number of people who say it doesn't work, or I don't like it, or it's for managers to control us. We discussed why things went wrong, but what do you think could we do as a community to help fix it? Because it seems the trend keeps increasing, and I see that related. I mean, I'm not a big fan of SAFe at enterprise level, of the Scale Agile framework in general, but even more at enterprise level. But I see their growth as a consequence again of people misunderstanding and expecting a ready-made recipe to be applied. So what do you think could be done to help improve the understanding of people? Because it seems more and more people are joining, but with a wrong understanding. What should we do?
Yeah, I think you have to keep on spreading the word in terms of emphasizing it's the mindset, right? And people think that if I implement a method of working, that I then am an agile organization. But if you just implement some ways of working and not this layer here, Ken Swaber once said Scrum is perfectly suited to work in waterfall, because you can do a sprint for analysis and a sprint for functional design. You can you can do it, right? And people do it like this. I see this going on, and people say, yeah, we work agile, and then after us we have a sprint for test, and then we do a sprint for user acceptance. Right? So we have to really change it, and you have to get to the basics. And this means that you have to talk about the manifesto, because so many people that claim to be agile didn't even read the manifesto, right? So go to the manifesto, read it and understand it. Talk with other people about it, what it means. Go to conferences and ask the people on stage what it means. And understand also that agile itself is not complicated, but that layer below, that change, is the complicated thing. That's the complexity in the simplicity of agile. That's really a thing that you need to understand. And what can we do about it? Yeah, keeping it open. I do a lot of these kind of talks. I know, in one-on-one interviews, and sometimes I have over 3,000 people somewhere on the globe, remote connected, and I do this. And I notice when I have talks like this, people are not used to my kind of talking, because they only hear dogmatic method talking. And what I also do to make understand that it's not easy to become an agile organization, I tell them what it takes to do a paradigm shift. If you like, you can go to integratedagile.com, and then you can find it's a transformation framework. And I like to bring things together in the way of working. So in that framework, you can use practices like pairing and refactoring, and you can, all those things, the dailies, the retros, the heartbeats, and everything is there. But the flow, it's an agile transformation of an organization, is focusing on changing that paradigm. And it starts with the management. It starts with the top. Because as long as managers give a traditional push, teams will give a traditional response. So it starts with the management. If you do corporate transformation, if you want to do agile in your team, fine. You will bump into your limitations, great. But if you want to do corporate, it starts with the management. And most of the time, an agile transformation is fucked up by the management.
Yeah, that leads to my last question. I think we're running out of time. In the manifesto was mostly focused on team, or a small group of teams at best. But now we have company willing to scale, and there are a lot of good principles that have, I mean, not that have not evolved, but that have appeared and are considered very good practice. Should we start? You already gave the answer. You say we should not modify the manifesto, but is it time at some? Do you think it will be good at some point to do a retrospective and maybe to add some other principle, especially for the scaling aspect, like the book of General McChrystal about team of teams, I think was very good. David Marquez' speech and the book Turn the Ship Around and I think you have there very good leadership, agile leadership concept, and there's some. I mean, now when I do audits for companies to try to help them, I try to put all of that in the self-organizing team part, but it's getting too big. Then this part is getting huge in my report, and so is it time at some point to complete, maybe not to change, but to complete? But you already answered that you don't think it's necessary.
Well, I would, if I would write it now, I would change one word. I would change the word software into solution or product or service.
Yeah,
because software itself doesn't do anything, and it's the solution itself and the people working with it that bring the value, and we look for value. In terms of adding to the manifesto or changing, well, it is what it is. I gave my answer, but I have to say that let's you and I agree that we add to the manifesto the moment that people are living up to the manifesto as it is today.
Okay.
One of the things that I see is that we said that business people and developers should work together on a daily basis. And I see people explaining clearly that they only have a refinement and a demo. And in between, there is no client contact at all, no business contact at all. And they are not even open to listen. And if we want to focus on anything, is people that listen to understand and listen to criticize. Listen to understand and don't listen to criticize. Be open to learn from other people's best practices. We have a long way to go.
That's a very nice phrase to conclude this talk. Thank you very much for your time. I did appreciate, and well, maybe we'll have another one at some point in the future.
Just ring the doorbell, and we'll make some time.
Very well. Thank you very much.
Okay, Arno. Have a nice day. Bye bye.